Okay, so we're talking about JSON Web Tokens today. So JSON Web Tokens, commonly called JWTs, are a common technology that web apps use to handle user sessions, and they're usually passed to web browsers as cookies. So JWTs can be easily identified as a cookie value that begins with the characters EYJ and 0. Well, it's not always going to be this, but it's usually going to start with EYJ, and that's because the first part of the JWT is encoded as a base 64 string. So all decoded JWT values begin with these characters over here. So squiggly bracket, and then some double quotes, and then TYP. So we can ID their encoded values very easily. So let me demonstrate over here. So we got the JWT labs. So JWT text. We can just scroll down until we get to the first lab over here. So it's an apprentice lab. It's labeled JWT Authentication Bypass via Unverified Signature. So once you're logged in, you can just click on the lab button, and then you can click on the button labeled Access the Lab. So we're actually going to put this in a separate tab. We'll go back. Okay, so this is a web application lab, and the goal of the lab is to do something specific. Let's talk about what the goal is here. So it says here that this lab uses JWT-based mechanism for handling sessions. So due to implementation flaws, the server doesn't verify the signature of any JWTs that it receives. To solve the lab, modify your session token to gain access to the admin panel at /admin. Then delete the user Carlos. You can log into your own account using the following credentials. Wiener Peter. So the username is Wiener. Peter is the password. So we're going to be attacking the JWT token that we're assigned as the cookie. And this is how we're going to do it. So in the lab here, after we're logged in, we can go over to the My Account part of the page. This is going to let us log in. So we use the credentials that we were provided. So it says here, Wiener Peter. These are our credentials. Wiener, ooh, that's not how you spell Wiener. Peter is the password. Click on Login. So now we're logged in as the Wiener user, but what we really want to do is we want to get access as a higher level user. So this is how we're going to do it. We can find the cookie that we were assigned by going over to the browser, clicking on this button to open the application menu, more tools, web developer tools. So we can also use the Control-Shift-I keyboard shortcut to access the same thing. What we want to do once we've opened up the web developer tools is to go over to the storage tab. So there's a bunch of tabs at the top over here. Click on storage. And then here, there's going to be a cookies tab here. So click on cookies. You're going to see the name of the lab over here. Just click on that. And you're going to see this session cookie with this value right here. So double click the value and then copy it. So when we go over to our terminal, we're going to base 64 decode this. So we can see the first part of this information here. It's base 64 encoded information. Okay, so another thing we can do if we think that we're dealing with JSON Web Tokens, so we can guess this is a JSON Web Token because it's a cookie value that begins with the characters EY and then capital J. We can go over to a site like JWT.io. It's a pretty well-known site. We can do encoding and decoding of JWTs from this site. And inside the web app here, we can just paste in the JWT that we received from the website. So just paste it in. Oh, that's not it. Hold on. Let me copy it again. Here it is. Okay, so this website here, it'll decode the JWT and it'll tell you what values are inside here. So we got KID and we got ALG, and then we've got some payload information here. So the stuff inside of this first area here, it's got information about how the JWT was encoded. So the key ID is this one over here, this first thing. This is a value that was used to sign the key. So the algorithm that was used to to encode the key is this one right here, RS-256. So RS-256, I think it's this is a hashing algorithm. So there are many tools we can use to read and write JWTs, such as the JWT.io web app, and this is what we're using right now. So the same web app can be used to modify JWT data, which could be used to gain access to different user accounts. So for example, if we got information like this written into the JWT, we could start messing around with the values here and gain access to different accounts. So in our case, we pasted in the JWT, we see that there's this information about how it was encrypted here. We also have the username. So we got Wiener as our username. What we want to do is we don't want to be Wiener, we want to be the administrator. So inside the JWT.io app, we can go over to the from the decoder section to the encoder section. This is the section that's going to let us modify the JWT. Okay, so here we can start adjusting these headers here. We can also start adjusting the payload data here, and we can become not the Wiener user, but the administrator user. So administrator. And in this challenge, the first section, we're being educated on accepting tokens with no signature. So among other things, the JWT header contains the ALG parameter, which is which algorithm was used to sign the token, and which algorithm it needs to use when verifying the signature. So all JWT tokens need to be signed in order to be considered valid. This is the secret portion of the JWT. So sometimes the algorithm can be switched over to none, which means it is an unsecured JWT. Most of the time, the applications don't accept this, but if there's a security misconfiguration, sometimes the applications will accept JWTs with no signature. And this is how you would do it. So go over to your JWT.io web app and then change the ALG value from RS-256 to none. Okay, and you'll see here that it's created a new JWT for us to use. So the first part of the JWT is this part right here, which is the header. The second part of the JWT is this part, the payload. In between the first part and the second part is a dot right over here. And between the second part and the third part is a dot. We see that there's nothing after this dot, which means that there's no signed data. There's no signed portion of the JWT. What we can do is we can just grab the JWT that we created here with this data, algorithm none, and as the administrator, we're just going to copy that. Then we're going to go back to the application, and we're going to paste in the cookie, the new cookie, in the session. So session here, old value delete, new value pasted in, hit enter, and then reload the page. So when we reload the page, it'll use the new cookie that has the administrator as the username. Okay, so after that, we see that we're logged out, but we have access to the administrator panel now. So we previously didn't. We want to click on the administrator panel, and Remember, the lab says, to solve the lab, modify your session token to gain access to the admin panel at /admin, then delete the user Carlos. So Carlos is here. We can click on a button to delete him. And then we finish the lab. Congratulations, you solved the lab. Okay, so that's just the first lab we're solving today. And we're going to talk about some different JWT attacks. This was just the first one. Okay, so let's go over what we did. So JWT signing keys or secrets. So the last detail about JWTs is that they must be signed using a keyword or a secret to be considered valid by the web application. So most of the time, this secret key is going to be some sort of random string or a word that we use to sign the key. But in this case, we're hacking using the alg_none vulnerability. So there's a well-known vulnerability for JWTs where some web apps will accept JWTs that have not been signed, or the algorithm for signing it is none, bypassing the need for a valid secret. Okay, so we just did that, and let's move on to the next challenge.
Hey there, HackerFrogs! Are you enjoying this workshop? Learning new concepts and skills? If so, there's a way you can support the channel, and it's totally free. Just click on the subscribe button below the video. Also, click on the like button. And if you have questions or comments on this workshop, please leave them below the video. Thanks for listening. And now, back to our scheduled programming.